There's concern that a disease which has wiped out bees in other countries has reached New Zealand. The biggest supplier of bees and beehives in Auckland, a firm called Bees Things, says insects in this region are dying at a rapid rate. Now, Kerry McCurdy, the owner of the company, is worried that colony collapse disorder is to blame. And Kerry's joining us now. Hello, Kerry.
Hello, thanks for having me on the radio.
No, pleasure. What is colony collapse disorder? That can be it's quite a complicated phenomenon in itself, isn't it?
It is. It still hasn't been nailed, and part of the reason is that there's no dead bees left in the beehives after the colony collapse, so you can't sort of pick up bees and test them for this or that. There's simply no bees.
Where do they go?
Yeah, that's what nobody's figured out. In the States, they've had huge death rates in big yards of bees, but not found any bees. They don't know where they are. And I must say it's the same here. The Varroa mite can hit you really hard here, if you're not up to speed with it. But this is not Varroa mite. It's some of the signatures are the honey that's left on the hives hasn't been robbed. That's one signature. There's no dead bees is another signature. There, a month ago, the bees' colonies were really good, and now they're gone. And they've left behind babies as though, they just looked out one day, decided, right, we're out of here, and they've gone.
Pesticides, all sorts of environmental stressors, they've all been named overseas. What is your best guess?
I would hazard a guess that something's damaging the bees, like when we get AIDS or chemotherapy, it isn't AIDS that kills you, it leaves you open to getting a disease, more susceptible. And I would say if anything that's new to nature, it's got to be the cell phone systems. And we've put blockers in the hives for that, and we can track, what's happening. But this 3G system that came in, we didn't accommodate. So for me, in my situation, it's liable to be the new cell phone system.
All right, so that's... Yeah, sorry. No, yeah.
Another part of it is the Monsanto produced this nicotinoid product that they coat on seed, and it's taken up by the plant, through the plant, and they said, it has minimal effect on bees. Well, if bees collect a whole lot of nectar and pollen from treated plants, then I would say that when they get into eating that honey, then they're then in the situation of eating toxins. So that's quite possibly what it is too. The colony collapse disorder has gone systematically from the States through Europe. There's no reason to believe that we won't get it. We're doing all the same things. We've got nicotinoid, we've got cell phones, we've got the whole lot.
The studies into neonicotinoids, from what I can understand, suggest that they may cause the bees to lose their homing ability. That's one theory being put forward, isn't it? And
if you take it that bees do collect that as a pollen or a nectar and store it in the hive and then use those resources in the winter, then you're going to get a problem as they start eating the honey, which is potentially what's happening to us.
So even if the causes are many and various, and goodness knows there have been enough theories, that wouldn't explain, to your mind, Kerry, the suddenness or the fact that you find no bees left in the hives?
That's the suddenness is the thing, yeah. The suddenness. 2 months ago the call started, and they started coming simultaneously from Drury all the way out the other side to Kumeu, Woodhill. And the hives that we've picked up are the same, either end of Auckland, and we've had plenty of calls from intern, like Remuera, Epsom, Mount Eden customers as well, to say that their bees have died. So it's not going to stop by the outside of Auckland, it's right across, and it's the same, both ends. It's not a localised thing.
And so on top of the Varroa mite, because the Varroa mite is getting worse too, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. It is. And you only need the Varroa mite, like already they're carrying two viruses in the same way mozzies will give people malaria. And if the Varroa mites do start carrying another virus, then it's killed by mites, but not by the overload of mites, but by the fact that the wrong mites arrived there with a virus, and that's what killed your bees.
So the question is, I suppose, what can be done about it? I mean, the idea that people should set up more hives, that's actually had an encouraging response. How useful is that going to be?
Well, it seems that New Zealand's got this big division. The value of bees to New Zealand is through pollination and exporting manuka honey, etc., with honey and money. It's all about money. To me, it's all about the city and the kids and the people in the city, the environment of having our own fruit and gardens and what have you. So I just feel that the city has been forgotten, in favour of export crops and etc. So I'd like to see more focus on bees in the city and coming to terms with city beekeeping, because we live under the regime of big export people, that are exporting tons of honey and what have you. The same rules apply to backyard beekeeping. Like, you can't even sell your honey to the neighbour.
That's another theory behind CCD, among the many, isn't it? Although it wouldn't explain the suddenness and what you're seeing, that in fact bees are suffering from good old-fashioned malnutrition.
That's correct. That's exactly right.
That might explain things in the city, but it doesn't explain things in your hives out in the countryside, does it?
No, well, it's the reverse, actually. The city is just full of food. It's got a multitude of food sources, and that's why I survive in the city with no sugar feeding, and we've allowed natural breeding for the last 10 years plus.
Okay, so
we haven't got a narrow gene pool, we've got a really broad gene pool.
All right, so there is enough for the bees in the city. So can I just get that straight in terms of what you think is the reason, the problem out in the countryside? Is it just why is the increased industrialisation of export crops to blame?
Well, the whole focus of beekeeping in New Zealand is to do with commercial beekeeping, and at the expense of hobbyists, backyard people, and city beekeeping.
Oh, I see.
To me, that's the most important. We've got to worry about that. That's our city. That's where we wake up and look out the window at.
So what is the answer? Apart from people setting up more and more hives to try and save the bees, what else do you think can be done, Kerry?
The only real answer is to bring in Leguan bees. I beekeep in the Philippines off-season. Every autumn I fly to the Philippines, and I've got a bee business there. And I fly back here two weeks ago. I got back. And Leguan bees over there have got their own defences for mites. They don't get AFB. They don't make as much honey. They're not as much of a money bee, but they're better pollinators. I don't see how else to get around. I think that'll be a must in the end. I don't see how they're going to survive without it.
How would you?
The Asian bee.
What sort of attitude would you have from biosecurity towards importing the Leguan bees?
Well, I personally wouldn't do it. I'm just going to play it through, I'm hoping that this will be a sort of a one-season phenomenon and go away again. But if it's not, I've already got business in Philippines. I'll simply go there.
Well, it's not a one-season phenomenon overseas, is it? It keeps wiping out bees and it keeps reducing food crops around the world.
And there's the logic of getting started in the Philippines before it got here. It was almost inevitable that it would arrive on our door. In the same way it was inevitable that Varroa mites would get here. And across the Tasman and Queensland, they've got a thing called small hive beetle. And they tell me that makes Varroa mites look like a holiday. It's far worse. So, beekeeping has definitely got a battle ahead of it in New Zealand.
It seems so, doesn't it, from what you're saying?
Yeah.
Kerry, thank you very much for coming on and talking to us about it as well. Kerry McCurdy, an Auckland beekeeper